Why do you want to learn a new programming language? If your answer is not one of the following, you might want to reconsider. Do you want to develop for new platforms where your current programming language does not operate? For example, going from web to mobile, or from mobile to desktop or IoT. Is your current programming language no longer being supported or improved? That is, the language has been abandoned by its creators and maintainers. Are you trying to take advantage of a particular core strength of a new programming language? For example, you want to learn Python for data science. Does the new language you're trying to learn open up a new field of development? For example, WebAssembly. Or are you a contractor and the client has strictly specified a particular programming language to be used for the project you're about to undertake? If none of these answers is your answer, then you might want to pump the brakes and properly master your current programming language to industry level proficiency before trying to move on to another one. In this video, we'll be going through the checkbox of items you need to tick off before you can confidently say you have mastered a programming language. So I remember those days when we started programming and we used to go for tech events. One of the things we used to take as bragging rights is how many programming language or frameworks we know. So whenever we break into groups, people like to say, yeah, I can write PHP, I can write JavaScript, I can write Python. Was Python popular then? I can write Ruby. This was like maybe like 2012, 2013, 2011 stuff. So we always bragged about how many programming languages we know. And when you look really into it, most of us just maybe have written Hello World or just like a to-do list level of program in these languages, and we didn't know how much this was hurting us. We just wanted to brag to our contemporaries that, yeah, I know how to write PHP, I know how to write Python, I know how to write Ruby, I know how to write C# and all those kind of things. But from my experience after coding for over 13 years, I've realized that it is much better to be highly proficient in one programming language, because it's even easy to carry all the engineering knowledge you've learned from one programming language to another. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you why you should pump the brakes trying to learn a new programming language and stay with your current programming language to learn it to a highly proficient level, to master it before you can then consider another language. You can always learn another language at any other time for the reasons I've mentioned in the introduction. But until you tick the boxes that I am going to be listing in this video, it might be a bad idea to move on to another programming language. So let's look at the list. So the first thing you want to make sure that you've properly mastered in your current programming language is the syntax. You want to get the syntax in your fingers. You want it to get to a level whereby if anybody wakes you up in the middle of the night, you can write your programming language. I remember when I was learning HTML, my very first language. I learned it for like 3 months. I was spending 8 hours every day learning HTML. Till today, it's difficult for you to get HTML out of my head. So you want to get to that level. You want to have muscle memory of your programming language. And it gets to a time you're not seeing functions, you're not seeing arrays, you're not seeing maybe semicolons and stuff. What you're seeing is the story. When you're looking at your editor, when you're looking at your code in the editor, you're looking at the story that your code is telling. And this comes by constant practice. This comes by looking up other people's code bases to learn. This comes by fixing, breaking things and building things. You have to spend a lot of hours mastering and working on your programming language to be able to get this kind of muscle memory where you have the syntax at your fingertips. So that's the first thing you want to do. You want to make sure that you're a master of the syntax that your programming language is written in. So the next thing you want to master is your programming language's standard library. Yeah, every programming language has a standard library. PHP has SPL, that's the standard PHP library. Node.js has a core library. Python has a standard library. And what the standard library contains is utility functions that help you get common tasks done. Common tasks like reading files, like reading streams, like unzipping files, like doing HTTP connections and stuff like that. Yeah, this is provided for you by the language creators so that you can get a lot of things done fast. You don't have to write the raw code to get it done. So you want to master your language's standard library. It's always all the information is always contained in the documentation. So you want to go through that, and on that you have an idea of 70% of what your language standard library is capable of doing. So after learning the syntax is the next level of mastery you want to attain. You want to check out your language's standard library and know 70% of what its capabilities are. So the So the next thing you want to do in your programming language of choice is to choose a framework. Let's face it, you cannot do everything yourself. You need a framework to bring some structure into your application. You also want a lot of utility tools that you can make use of. Utility tools that are not even provided by the language standard library. So you want to use a framework, you want to adopt a framework. And one major advantage of frameworks is that they help you move faster. So it's not like you can't code all these things yourself. I myself have built a whole framework from scratch for myself, but having a framework helps you build things faster. It helps you move faster. A lot of your professional work is going to be done using a framework. So you want to move faster with PHP, Laravel. You want to move faster with Node.js, use something like Express.js, or you use Adonis.js, which I've used a lot. You want to move faster with JavaScript, you want to look at Angular, you want to look at React, you want to look at Vue.js. These frameworks are there for you to make your life easier and to make you write more standard code that has been tested in professional projects and have been stabilized to make sure that there are no bugs and there are no issues, as long as you use the framework the right way. Also, you want to make sure that you pick one framework and master it very well. Yeah, pick one framework and master it very well, but you can play with others too. What I'm just saying is that you should pick one framework, master it very well, then you can then look, just like what we're saying about programming languages, you master one, then you take all the knowledge from there to another one. You also want to do that with the framework of your language. For example, I started using Angular, then I went to React for some reason because a project required it. I had to learn React, but now I use Vue.js and I love Vue.js. The most important thing is that you want to find the framework you are most efficient in, and don't get into all the framework arguments here. That's not going to help you in any way. Holy moly! Just find the framework you're most efficient with. So if you work faster with Angular, go with Angular. If you work faster with Vue.js, go with Vue.js. So you want to master one framework, but also check out others because you might just find a framework that is better suited for your skills. So before we continue, I would like to introduce you to a concept known as the Bloom's taxonomy. Now, the Bloom's taxonomy is a concept that has been developed by OG educators on how you can master a skill. I actually used a lot of principles from that to develop this video, but we're going to be discussing more on that later, so let's just continue. So the next thing you want to do is to learn how to deal with errors. Yes, I know that this is not a very sexy topic when it comes to learning a programming language, but you'd rather do that than have the application blow up in your face. So you want to understand the errors that can take place in your application, server errors, client errors. You want to have an understanding of all that, and also know about some specific errors that your programming language provides. Errors that have to do with database connections or database pool, errors that have to do with memory usage, errors that have to do with HTTP connections. You want to know how to catch those errors with something like a try-catch block and be able to handle them gracefully. So learn to work with errors, because in as much as this might not be a very exciting part of a programming language, this is what will make sure that your applications are not crashing. And also, familiarity with errors will help you with your debugging skills. It will help you to debug stuff faster, help you to track errors faster and fix them. And you know the kind of confidence that will give you as a programmer, knowing that even when things blow up, you know where to find the problem and you know how to fix it. So I hate to be the bearer of a very unpleasant concept, but yes, you need to write tests. Yeah, I know that a lot of developers are very, very defensive at the thought of writing tests for your application. Yeah, why do I have to write code to test code again? But tests are very, very important, and tests help you to sleep well at night. That's just what I have in my mind when I think of tests. Tests help you to sleep well at night, and I think if you have a very good understanding of the benefit of tests, it might encourage you to write more tests. Think of tests like this. For every test you write, you are potentially removing a bug from your application. Yeah, for every test you write, you are potentially removing a bug from your application. So having that mentality about tests, I believe will encourage you to write more tests, because it's kind of being proactive about bugs, catching them before they happen in the first place. And as a quote I just made up says, a test a day keeps the bugs away. So this is something I learned very late in my programming journey, and I believe it did hurt my development as a developer. Every programming language runs in an environment. Yeah, every programming language runs in a host environment. Java runs in a JVM, Java virtual machine. PHP or Node.js will run in some web server. PHP will most likely run in Apache, and we all know that Node.js runs in a virtual machine. JavaScript runs in a browser. So these environments have a lot to do in determining how these languages are to be applied. So if you want to build web applications, learn about web servers. If you want to build desktop applications, learn about operating systems. If you want to build IoT applications, learn about electronics. Learning about these environments will help you to better understand how your programming languages are going to be applied, and subsequently make you much better in using your language of choice. So the last point I'm going to be making is that you should work alone and also work with others. Both of these modes of work help in your development. Working alone helps your grit, it helps you to make your own mistakes, it helps you to prove yourself as a developer and to kind of develop confidence in yourself that you can make use of your language to do a lot of things, build your own project, face your own problems, and crawl your way out of those scenarios. Those mistakes are better made when you are working on your own projects. And working with other people gives you collaborative skills. You learn to develop empathy, you learn to work with collaborative tools such as Git, Jira, do CI/CD and all that. So both have their own contributions to your development as a developer. So in your language of choice, you want to make sure that you build something on your own, you build something on your own from scratch, and you've also worked in a team. You've worked with people, you've worked as a team member, building one part of a project and contributing to a larger project. All these are going to help you to become more successful in your professional career as a developer in your language of choice. So that brings us to the end of our list. This is not an exhaustive list on its own, but if you have been able to check all these boxes, then you can beat your chest that you're proficient in your language of choice. And you can from then, you can start considering learning a different language and carrying on all the things you've learned into that language. Now, at the point in this video, I talked about Bloom's taxonomy, which is like a concept that helps you to master a particular skill. And this can be used for any skill, be it acting, be it playwriting, be it project management, or any type of skill. And that includes programming. In another video, I'm going to be using this Bloom's taxonomy. I'm going to be using the exact Bloom's taxonomy to give you guidelines and tips on how you can master a programming language to proficiency. You can call yourself like a master in a particular programming language. We're going to be using the individual steps in the Bloom's taxonomy to define what should be done for you to attain a mastery level in a particular programming language. So that's all for this video. One other thing I found really useful in any programming language is roadmaps, and I have made different roadmaps for both the front end and the back end. If you're interested in my step-by-step breakdown of the back end roadmap, you want to check out this video next. See you in another one.